Call. Two men. One named Rich. That's me.
This is Jermaine. Just got off the toilet.
He's a foul man. This is the X's and O's of life.
Huh?
And yes, I am a child. As you can tell, Jermaine got rid of his tan. Either that or it's somebody else. I'm not sure. So I have a guest, and is it Andrea or Andrea?
It's Andrea.
Okay, cool.
Yep,
Because I was
yep.
like, I don't know how fancy you are. So
I'm not.
okay,
And there's a million ways to pronounce it, and I generally just go with it.
I dig it. I like it. And this is the kind of interviews that I have been kind of, I guess, almost more known to do than the regular show, which is kind of odd. I think it actually, the balance has shifted. I've done more interviews than actual, like, my show, which is wild to me. But so instead of me trying to explain to you what you do, you tell me what you do. And I already have a general idea where I want to go with it, but I want everyone to know, what you kind of encompass as a people on the earth.
Yeah. So, like, as a people on Earth, my name is Andrea, and I am the only me that has ever existed.
Congratulations.
I am a wife. I am a mother. I am a clinician. I have just professionally, I'm a master's addictions counselor, licensed professional counselor, a certified sex therapist, a certified sex addictions therapist, and I've been working in the field about 20 years. I absolutely love what I do. I love the population I serve, and very gratified by the work I do. And I mean, I feel like having meaningful work, like when I'm journaling at night, when I'm talking about gratitude, I'm like, meaningful work comes up almost all the time. So I love all of those things that I mentioned in the meaning they bring to my life. So, I mean, I guess that's how I show up in the world.
No, it's beautiful because you provide a purpose, obviously, but that purpose that you're providing, I guess the best way to put it is you appreciate it and you embrace it because you're doing good in the world. And that's beautiful because not a lot of folks can really say that. I mean, not
agreed. Yeah.
That's kind of why they call it a job, not a hobby. But, it's one of those like, hey, if you're doing God's work out there, then hey, props to you. So whereabouts are you from? You got a little twang to you.
Yeah. So I'm from Savannah, Georgia.
Oh, how hot is it down there?
Well, it's not so hot today because we had a hurricane yesterday. So most of us are still without power. The hurricane that moved through Florida and wound up hitting us about last night. So I'm in the office where I have power and air conditioning. And it's a little cooler today in the 80s, not in the 90s. So yeah.
Jeez, I don't know. It was so I'm an idiot with geography. And I'm unclear.
So we were right on the coast, right on the Atlantic coast, right where Georgia juts out, just a little past South Carolina. So, like, when you look at the map, you're looking at, Savannah hanging off into the Atlantic, kind of near Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, thank God you're okay. And, hopefully they were saying something along the lines of like some places could be weeks without power. And hopefully that's not going to fall under.
That's me at my house right now. And I'm wondering every year, like I wonder during hurricane season, why don't I have a generator? Why? I say the same thing every freaking year. Why do not? I don't know why.
Because they're expensive and it's like,
going
I'll
to
never
Harbor
use
Freight
you.
on my way home.
Yeah. Yeah, we have a weird power grid up in Pittsburgh. And at least on this street, it's like an old house, and to the point where we have this little thing we bought from Lowe's. It's this little electric fireplace that creates heat. It's like a weird, cool, awful thing that I don't care about that the wife loves. And we had to literally redo the whole bottom floor because if she plugged it into the one outlet, it literally would blow like 3/4 of the house. It's like, Okay. And I'm like, you're mildly anemic, so this damn thing is always on. So you're gonna stop blowing fuses. So we're gonna move around everything. So,
Yeah.
um,
Well, apparently you have to, well, you should. I don't know if have to is the right word, but for best results, you want to have an electrician come and install a whole additional small but panel next to your panel. So you turn off all your household panels and then you turn on this one that's going to operate your generator. So it's a whole thing.
oh. Fair
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
Noted. I'll put that back in the noggin.
Otherwise, it's going to blow everything.
Yeah, it's just that's why we had to move. I mean, since we've moved it, everything's fine, but it's just like that doesn't feel safe.
I hear you.
It doesn't feel safe.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I kind of want to latch on to a certain aspect of this, and mostly just because I've had a lot of addiction life coaches, people of that ilk that have gone through the drug, they've gone through the alcohol, they've gone through, I had a porn addicted fella a few days ago.
Sure.
And we've kind of already I've touched on those, and obviously there's like I said earlier, there's always more kind of layers to those things, but I have not had the chance to talk to someone that does sex therapy, which sounds sexy, but it's not. Like in a box you say sex therapy, it's like, well, let me take a look see here.
Yeah.
But I'm interested to kind of dive into that. I don't think we need to focus fully on it, but if you have listened to anything I have done, I really, really dig rabbit holes.
Okay.
They're kind of my thing. Not intentional, it just kind of happens. So there's like a 46% chance we'll be talking about sex therapy the whole time. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes.
Right. So I guess in a box, what is sex therapy?
Yeah. So, well, I guess I'll start with the reason that I love it. I
was going to
feel
ask that, but you beat me to the
Yeah.
punch.
Sorry. Like, I love it because, most of us humans have some type of trauma, whether we have uncovered that, been willing to look at that or not. Most of us have some trauma, and some of it really has impacted the way that we view the world, live in the world, and relate to it and to one another. And it shows up in the bedroom, just like everything that we struggle with is going to show up to some degree in the bedroom in our intimate relationships. And that's why I love it. I love it because I feel like we do ourselves a disservice and not looking at it. So it's not just about quote unquote sexual disorders or dysfunctions. Okay. Yes, that's often when someone wants to walk through the doors to my facility is because they have had some negative consequences with either some type of sexual compulsivity or they're having some side effects from lack of movement, maybe diabetes, erectile dysfunction, some type of something that's keeping them from living the best version of their lives, not just mentally and emotionally, but sexually, because most people want to connect and share their bedroom in a really intimate way, but they're scared to death to do it because our society has taught us that we can't be intimate or vulnerable at all. So there are a lot of problems that we see in the realm of sex and intimacy.
What's interesting about what you just said, the society doesn't really allow you, for lack of a better term, to kind of be, let your proverbial freak flag fly.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's interesting because I feel like, and by no means am I a professional in anything, I can barely do two things at once. So don't, not a doctor. I feel like it's either that or the complete other side of the spectrum. There is no like gray area anymore.
Yeah.
It
Yeah, no,
just
I would
seems
agree
like
with that.
either I'm
Things
not
are so
allowed to
polarized, black and white, all or nothing, always never. Yeah.
now. Just really quick before we go any further, from a verbiage standpoint, are you comfortable with any words? Is everything, because this is a completely like there are no rules thing.
Yeah, well, I kind of come from a place of being a clinician and a professional. So I allow whoever I'm speaking with to use whatever words they feel like they need to use to get a point across.
Well, fair enough. I just wanted to kind of get that out
Nothing's
there
going to
because
offend me.
okay, because I'm assuming you're going to share this with your crowd. I just don't want to ruffle any feathers or anything.
Yeah, well, feathers get ruffled. That's okay.
I like you. Um, so it really is a strange thing because there's no kind of gray area. It's either 0 or 60. Either I'm not doing anything or
Mhm.
I'm banging my couch here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's a bit of an odd. It's a bit of an odd change because I don't really know when that happened.
Yeah.
Um,
And what you're describing to me is that, gosh, pendulum swing too.
yeah,
The black or white, the sexual anorexia versus sexual addiction and compulsivity that are on the, polar opposites of a spectrum, right?
right.
And so, yeah, I mean, I think that is, whether it's, deprivation and sexual anorexia or it's addiction and compulsivity and having your world blow up because of that, either way, they're equally destructive. And there is no intimacy and there is no vulnerability in either of those.
And it's interesting because you can almost kind of feel like both of those sides of the spectrum come from the same place of almost, you
Mhm.
know, you're not allowed to do anything. And if you have
Mhm.
any kiddos, you ever dealt with any kiddos, you tell them kiddos to not do something, they're going to go very, very hard on what you told them not to do, or they're going to be so sheltered that they're not going to do it. And when they do it, holy Christ, it's going to be a lot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's,
And I love what you're
mm,
saying because you're getting to the guts of it, if you will, because it is all about early childhood development. It's about those early traumas. It's about those instilled negative core beliefs that lead us to be always or never, So you might have that negative core belief that you tell me no, I'm going to go, the direct opposite of what you tell me because I can't trust you. Or I'm going to go, to the other space of like anxiety and paralyzation, right? And be over compliant, if you will. You won't question, you won't challenge, you won't do that gray thing, right?
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I guess my interpretation about this whole thing as well is I feel like the only real healthy way to approach that to kind of give someone a good, I guess, sexual foundation, for lack of a better term,
Mhm.
is, teach, but don't, I guess, educate your kids, but, just and it sounds so simple, but just be smart about it. Like, give
Yeah.
them the facts, give them the info. It's not this crazy, dirty thing, but also don't put your dick in everything that moves. It's like kind of
Mhm.
like one of those, like, hey, let's kind of, find a happy medium here. Let's just be responsible with it. But it's always been such a strange thing where you get these. It's like, oh, sex is the devil. It's like you realize I'm here because of sex, right? No, didn't
And you
didn't.
see, and that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Sex is not designed to be anything but a beautiful connection. And for a lot of people it can be that, but sex in its best form is a spiritual experience. So to say that it's of something negative like doesn't really make sense.
yeah, and I think that stems from kind of it's almost like genetics get passed down. I feel like the same thing with those kind of ideals and maybe the sign of the times at that point. I mean, at this point, it's everyone is, it's definitely you don't have those um bubble boy kind of situations
Right.
where you're like closed off from everything. I mean, my God, you can literally pick up that computer that's in your pocket and find everything that you want and don't want to see.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it's kind of hard to be and I think that I think that plays a part in it too, just the
Oh, for sure.
oversaturation of the market. It's
For sure.
and that can kind of go along with my porn addiction fellow that I talked to. Just it's
Mhm.
like everything is here, and at any point I can deviate to this to satiate some kind of empty feeling or empty emotion, or I saw that I need to, it's just, without being vulgar, it's just kind of, I feel like at that point it's just more this is filling a hole, pun
Yeah.
intended.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I I with pornography specifically, or technology addiction, um, you're looking at that increased tolerance to dopamine and novelty. And we have all created dopamine deficient human beings. So we're going to have poor impulse control. We're going to have poor executive functioning. We're going to have an inability to really connect with our wise mind, frontal lobe. And so, like, our outcomes are often going to be poor. I mean, like, this is what we're doing to ourselves.
Yeah.
Period. Whether it winds up being pornography or food or whatever it winds up being, we are very susceptible to that now. All humans, whether you're genetically predisposed or not, you've got a device in your hand that's going to ensure that happens. So,
Well, kind of deviate a little bit away from this to kind of go from the present to the past. What
uh-huh.
made you get into this? Like, what? I mean,
Yeah.
the line of work, or just what
Well,
triggered your noggin to jump in here?
yeah. I want to say it's twofold. Like, when I really like go back, I feel like I've, you know, since young adulthood, probably even early childhood, I feel like I've been a very sex positive human being. Like, I never really received the messages that sex was good or bad. And so I've always had like a healthy curiosity of sex. And again, like I said, you know, everything shows up eventually in the bedroom and in our relationships and things like that. So I actually, like, when I look way back, I'm like, okay, like, I can see why I wound up enjoying this field, but that's absolutely not what got me into it. What got me into it is I was a master's addictions counselor and a licensed professional counselor, and I was just kind of developed this reputation of working really well with people who were addicted to stimulant drugs like crack cocaine and powder cocaine, or stimulant drugs like Adderall, Ritalin, things of that nature. And so what that wound up looking like is I would get everybody who was working on their sobriety on those things, but then consequently, they developed addictions either in the realm of mood and food or in sexual compulsivity. So my specialty just very organically veered towards both eating disorders and sexual dysfunction. And so I just started really diving into that because, I was good at it. And I enjoyed it, and people were getting better and living healthier lives, and having healthy relationships as a result. So I mean, like, I guess that's what got me into it, but I think I was well suited for it. I was not in a position to have any type of bias in place or judgments in place when it came to people's sexuality. So,
That's super cool. Like, I've always appreciated organic kind of, hey, this kind of came to me kind of moment, and knowing that you're already good in your field, more than good. You have a master's, for Christ's sake. Let's be honest. You're great in your field, and then this thing just kind of popped up. It's like, hey, how's this tickle you?
yeah, yeah.
And you just kind of jumped in feet first. That's awesome. How long have you been covering the sex side of things?
Um, about 15,
Jeez.
17 years. Yeah. Yeah. And, but earlier on in my career, it's funny because when I was asked in my schooling, so like in my master's program, they would say, go ahead and name off the top of your head like two populations that you believe you'll never be able to work with. And it's so funny because my two that came to mind were people who were addicted. Of course, I had a very strong misconception at the time of what that meant and what that looked like. However, that was the first population. And the second population was the population of pedophiles. And it's so interesting. Like, those are two of my passion populations that not only did I wind up gravitating towards, but working well with. And those were two that I really would have told you in the beginning I couldn't serve. I said, I
That's
just can't do it.
tough.
I can't do it. And boy, has that changed over the last, 20 years, 20 plus years. But I mean, I think it speaks to, going out and doing the work and seeing what happens in the process instead of just labeling others or labeling yourself as something. You don't know until you do it. You don't know till you do that work, what you love and what you're good at.
How do you deal with that? How do
Mm.
you deal see, I didn't know that's what you really had to deal with.
Well,
When I
sometimes.
think
I mean,
it's when I
it's not my whole practice by any means, but every now and then, sure.
okay.
Mhm.
All right, because
And
I was
you
very
see it more
concerned.
often than not when you're working in the realm of, not just sexual compulsivity, but more so, pornography addiction, because as the tolerance builds, the content that you start to view becomes darker and darker and darker.
Mm.
Mhm.
So okay, a few things here too. You said you had a misconception of what addiction was. So
Mhm.
I guess what was it before? What
Yeah.
happened for you to change, and what is it now?
Yeah, so I think what it was before is some type of moral failure or lack of control or a decision or a choice, and, that's could not be further from the truth or the reality of the disease. The reason I actually love working with it is because it's so treatable. It is so treatable working with a disease model. And so that's just extremely gratifying. And it's a relief, obviously, to know that like you're working with people that can and do improve and get better based on what we know and what we've learned about that disease. So yeah. So huge misconception on what the population was dealing with, what it looked like. So, thank God I had the opportunity to overcome that. Um, and of course, life has happened. I mean, this was when I was like in my very, very, very early 20s, So I mean, I was still like a baby. So lots changed since then. And then with regards to working with somebody who has built a tolerance, a lot of the clients that I work with were not born with an arousal template that hovered around prepubescent humans. It developed over time. And so having the opportunity to work with people who so very, very deeply despise their behaviors and want desperately to be able to find a way to thrive in this world without acting out in that way. So their level of motivation is huge. I always appreciate that about people. And I feel like all of us humans, if we're really honest with ourselves, we know what it is like to want the wrong thing really bad. And so I think I can meet anybody on that level.
I have never had anyone. Well, I mean, for just in general, not just on this stuff, but I've never had anyone kind of I hate to say it this way, but almost like humanize a person that would be labeled a pedophile.
Yeah.
Like it's usually you have garnered that title, and now you are on the
Monster,
outskirts of
a
society,
monster. And
right?
and honestly, that's how they would label themselves when they come to me, is a monster.
And that almost, God, this sounds so bad, but that almost makes me happy to hear that, because I mean
Mm,
it's a terrible thing to be into.
sure.
I mean, I don't think anyone here is going to deny that. But hearing someone that's worked closely with people that have had that issue, knowing that they're self-aware,
Mm.
and as you said, they realize that they're deeply that they have a hatred for that.
I've worked with people who've tried to castrate themselves before they saw me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Woof.
Yeah, so when you talk about highly motivated, I mean, these are people that
Right.
will go to any length to disconnect from an addictive pattern of behavior. Mm. those have been some of my experiences. And of course, you've got unmotivated people too. You've got people who are in that
Right.
pre-contemplative stage of change, and they're like, "There's nothing wrong with me," and they're a danger. I feel like all of them, are high risk and a danger to themselves and others. But again, there is a way out.
Yeah. So if wow, that's just heavy. That really is
Mhm.
heavy. Golly, you must make all the money.
No.
Better at least.
No, it is not the field for the money, that's for sure. It's for the feel goods.
Yeah.
So if you don't love it, get the hell out of it because you're
Yeah.
not gonna make money here.
Did you ever have whether it be an experience or a client or an issue that really made you kind of say, yeah, this is too much? Like I don't think I want to do this. Like
Yes.
that you
Yes.
have?
Absolutely. Mhm. And I don't, and I won't, and I'm pretty clear with them why. We're not gonna make progress together. But usually that has to do with their level of motivation more so
Yeah.
than any behavior that they've ever participated in.
Well, I'm saying you, like you
Mhm.
personally, have you ever did you ever have a circumstance or a situation where it just became too much to handle and you didn't want to do what you do anymore?
No.
No?
Not with
Wow,
this
you're
population, no. Mm-mm.
okay. There was another one that you may have had that with,
Oh,
or
yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought I wanted to go into the field to help children and families, and I quickly learned that that
oh
was not for
yeah.
me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, people shouldn't have kids. A lot of people shouldn't have kids.
Oh, yeah, and
Oh
it
god,
wasn't the
yeah.
working with the children as much as it was working with their the people they depend on, their
Yeah.
caregivers, and, it was just again, like, obviously in me sharing, it's very clear that I want to be gratified by the work that I do, and so if they have a good chance of success, I'm gonna love that population, but these kiddos in dependent situations and scenarios that they just can't break out of, like, if I can't help, I don't wanna do it.
Yeah, that's fair, and I feel like some people may look at that a certain way. I
Mhm.
personally look at it like, hey, that takes a certain type of person,
Oh, yeah,
and
and more
it
power to
doesn't.
them. More
Yeah,
power
it
to them.
doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't make you any worse or better or
Mhm.
anything. It's just one of those like,
Mhm. Well, at the end of the day, I have to go home with myself.
right?
I have a family to care for too. And so that's, a decision that, I needed to make. And I definitely gravitated towards a population that I could help and I could serve in a good way and come home and be the person I need to be in my world.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mhm.
Um, well, let's kind of pivot off the pedophile thing because just feels like a good thing to get away from. Um, what else does what else does a sex therapist kind of do cover? You know,
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it has to do with vulnerability and emotional, not just physical, but emotional intimacy and safety. Because a lot of people are participating in things in the bedroom, out of the bedroom, sexually that make them very uncomfortable and are re traumatizing for them. But they're not verbalizing that or communicating that to their partners. And so there winds up being a real riff and a lot of damage done in relationships. And so a lot of working on honesty, clarity, communication, good boundaries, building trust, and then we get more into the sexuality of things and arousal and what excites people and what works for people and how to make that work for both parties, how to get super comfortable with giving pleasure, how to get super comfortable with receiving pleasure, because we're all going to gravitate a little more towards one than the other. And, so just all of that is part of it. And sometimes as a result, most of the time for my clients, it's more psychological and emotional, but there can be some arousal disorders and sexual dysfunction as far as like orgasm or, like erectile dysfunction, there could be vaginismus, dyspareunia, different things that some of my female clients are struggling with, and especially dealing with sex as people age over time. Things change, our hormones change, our bodies change, we look different. So just becoming a strong in who we are as sexual beings, period, no matter how we present on the outside. I think that's all part of it.
So do you by chance have like, and I know I'm kind of all over the place with this, but just once again, it's a very interesting topic, and you have everything kind of firing off in your noggin. You're like, oh, let me ask this, let me do this. Have you ever had a story that you just made you laugh?
Oh, all the time.
But is it so? Let me rephrase that. Is there a story that you can tell that you're like, yeah, this is my party story?
For me personally, or for one of my clients?
No, your clients. No, not you. Gee, that's weird.
Yeah, no, I mean, I couldn't tell one of my clients' stories, even if I didn't use their confidential information. Some of these stories are pretty unique, so
Yeah.
they'd be able to track it
Okay.
back to themselves. But I
Okay.
could say that, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of humor, there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of play, there's a lot of positivity when it comes to the conversations that I'm going to have with clients. There's a lot of giggling, there's a lot of fun, there's a lot of,
So you
curiosity.
make it comfortable for them too, which sounds.
Yeah, that's part
Yeah.
of the goal, is to get comfortable with the
Yeah.
conversation, because like you mentioned in the beginning, like a lot of us are programmed to have certain negative connotations, I guess, when it comes to sex and intimacy and all of those things. So some of it really is deprogramming that. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. That wasn't really a fair question, but
You
like
can ask. That's okay.
no, the one I asked her. Yeah, I should have been aware. Like, hey, you can't really kind of put that out there. But I'm glad to see that you make your clients comfortable, and they're because everyone kind of gets a little red faced and giggly, and I don't care how old you are. It just is kind of what it is.
Yeah.
And it's cool
And
to
it's very
see that they're able to have fun
interesting.
with it.
It's very interesting to the language that people use when
Yeah.
it comes to the human body.
Oh,
And
please share with the class.
well, I mean, like, it's just some of them are just very childlike. And it's like, am
Yeah.
I talking to a 3-year-old? And like, sometimes as a psychotherapist, one of the questions is like, how old do you feel in your body when you say who?
Oh no.
Like, and they're like, usually they're, insightful enough to be like, 4, 5, 3. And it's like, yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just like, even, when you talk about like the red faced and like giggly, and it's like, yeah, there is that. And it comes with this very childlike sometimes view of sex. And then I also oftentimes see this sexual dynamic between partners, where one of them is playing more of a parental role and the other one is playing more of a childlike role. And that winds up getting very uncomfortable for both parties. And so that
It
comes up
sounds
a
it.
lot. I'm like, yeah, it's not fun to have sex with your child, is it? Yeah, no, it doesn't. That's not, something a lot of us gravitate towards. So then they start to get it. They're like, okay, so that's where the resentment's coming from. That's where the lack of drive and excitement is coming from. It's because of this dynamic we've shifted into over years,
I really would love to know what caused that whole thing. Like why like it used to be almost like taboo to see a kiss in Hollywood, right? Now, you pretty much can see a boatload more on cable TV than you could in theaters 15 years ago. And then you have people that are using baby words for their jiggly bits, and it's like
exactly.
Like, what are you doing? Like, why is that? Like, you realize that's it may be cute in your head, but it does not sound great. It's like, I'm gonna put my thingy in your hoo-hoo. It's like,
yeah, it's like,
do what in a who?
And and what's interesting is that when that comes to light in therapy, they're surprised that the other person was not turned on by that language. They're
Who
actually,
would
I
have?
mean,
Who
they're
would have thunk
kind
it?
of like, "Oh, you don't like that?" Um, no, but guess what?
Mm.
It was the responsibility of the person who didn't like it to say something. So it's
Well,
it's
yeah.
you know, it's interesting, and but I love that. I love it when people gain insight and awareness and they're like, "Oh, well, you know what? I could probably change that." Great. Yeah.
Would you say it's a safe assumption that most people have, you have your real life side and then you have your person that you are in the bedroom? I feel like there's a lot of folks that
Mm.
either can't be who they are. It's either it's almost like they're either afraid to be who they are in the bedroom on the real world, or they're afraid to be who they are in the real world in the bedroom.
Yes, I think that that is safe. Um, but, not all of it is pathological, not all of it is unhealthy. Some of it is about sexuality and curiosity and excitement and arousal. So, like, as long as you are aware of that and that you're not acting out or reenacting old traumas and really wounding yourself in the process, but that's something that you want to unpack and uncover in therapy, because some people are very unaware of why there is a big difference between, how they show up in the bedroom and how they are authentically in the world. If they have authenticity in the world, which is another thing to unpack.
Do you think that, I don't care if you feel that you have trauma or you don't have trauma, you think that you're sexually healthy, you don't think, whatever.
Mhm.
Do you think everyone should maybe visit a sex therapist at least once in their adult life?
Mm. Well, I think for people who don't have very good, strong, safe, open relationships with their partners, then yes. Because a lot of the dysfunction comes from not feeling safe to, like, communicate openly and honestly and vulnerably and, like, having that real connection and intimacy with each other. So, I think, if you're in a relationship like that, I think a lot of things maybe could be worked out outside of therapy, but otherwise, I definitely think it would be important to, at some point, visit or talk about some things with a professional. And I definitely think that when you are younger, when you are single, when you're, developing and you're trying to figure out, who you are sexually in this world, that's a great time before you get into like a committed relationship, before you get into, a marriage or something like that. Yeah, that would be a great time to explore, your sexuality and maybe some traumas and some things like that with a therapist.
So, for anyone that's listening, you know, uh, someone that's afraid to make that step or that call or whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
what would you tell them?
Um, if you're considering it, or if it resonates with you, then feel the fear and do it anyway. Pick up the phone, make a phone call. What's the harm in a consultation? What's the harm in a meeting or two to see if there is some value and some potential benefit? You know, that's what free consultations are for. I've definitely met with people and been like, no, you're good. You know?
Really?
Yeah. Oftentimes I'm able to, at least in my mind, develop a pretty robust treatment plan in 15 minutes.
Oh
So
yeah.
most of the time people are gonna, benefit from counseling. Yeah, but there's definitely some times where it's like, yeah, either no or not now, or maybe when you get some more consequences, therapy might benefit you. So it just depends. But I believe that it's important for therapists to offer brief but free consultations to see if somebody is ready for therapy at an outpatient level. Because outpatient level means that, like, you're pretty healthy. You're curious, you've got some insight, you've got some self-awareness.
Right.
Yeah.
Just and tell me I'm wrong here, but from what you just said, it almost sounds like there's a lot of people that feel like, hey, they may be a little messed up or a little screwed up, but it's like, no, you gotta. There's some
Mhm.
other things that make your jiggle bits kind of, stand up at attention, opposed to, it's not bad like you think it is. Is that
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah?
maybe not, and especially in this world of technology, the internet is what we call in pornography world the great accelerant. So, with the great accelerant, it's really important probably that if you've been viewing pornography for a while, that you talk to somebody, just because your arousal templates probably have been toyed with a little bit or significantly, and that's going to impact you in relationships. So, I would definitely reach out. Hmm.
And by no means am I gonna, say I know exactly what that is and all that. I mean, it
Hmm.
kind of context clues and what have you. But what exactly is an arousal template?
Yeah, so it's basically how we're programmed to respond physically and physiologically to stimuli. And so there are certain types of content that we're going to view that we're going to find arousing. And that changes over time. And we talked earlier about like tolerance building. And so what used to maybe be, you know, barely 18 content and has progressed to bestiality, that's tolerance building and arousal templates shifting.
That is 0 to 60 right there.
Mhm.
Golly.
Yeah, and depending on genetics, depending on trauma, depending on the amount of view time, that could be a rapid acceleration or it could take decades.
God, I have so many questions. Um, no wonder you do what you. I mean, it not for nothing. Not even if you felt like you did no good in the world and you hated what you did, you have to have one of the most interesting gigs out there. The things you have to hear are just like, I don't know. Like and it's not a bad thing. It's just like, God, that's such an interesting,
Yeah.
because
And
it's
as
yeah,
long as I've been doing it though, I gotta tell you, like, almost everything that somebody shares with me, it's not so much what they're saying as much as in my mind, I'm thinking about what has happened to them neurobiologically over time. I'm literally in their brains. I'm in the brain chemistry. I'm not as much thinking about what they did as much as why they did it or how they got there and
right.
how
I
to
mean,
deprogram it. Mhm.
chances are you don't get born into like, yeah, I really kind of want to see that guy bend
Oh,
over that
no.
horse. It's like, no, no one's built like that. That's
Yeah.
something happened to cause that to be.
Yeah, it is one of the questions I generally ask people early on, if they're dealing with sexual compulsivity or pornography addiction, is did you just wake up in the morning and thought, I'd like to see what that looks like? And the answer 90% of the time is nope.
Yeah.
This is a progression of an addictive disease, and we can deprogram that.
So, I mean, obviously, we don't have a boatload of time to kind of go over that, but what does kind of deprogramming look like for someone? And kind of do a mid-level case. Don't
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
that's like it's so extreme or anything like that. But like, what does that deprogramming look like?
Yeah, and I don't wanna overgeneralize because every single person is very unique.
Right.
Their experience is very unique, their trauma is unique, how they have responded to their trauma is unique. Um, but you're taking all of that into consideration to develop a plan that will effectively allow them to move into remission, and then you do some trauma work and work on reprogramming and, inserting, maybe some healthier ways, to be in your sexual self, probably, hopefully finding your authentic self. Because for some people, what they have been through in life, they have no idea what that is. They don't know who they are sexually or authentically. And so that's part of the process. But a big thing that we work on is once somebody has moved into a place of abstinence. Now, abstinence is not recovery at all. It's just that they're able to abstain from unwanted acting out behaviors for a period of time. So when they're in a good 3 to 9 months of abstinence. At that point, you're doing a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy. You're doing a lot of motivational interviewing. You're doing a lot of relapse prevention. You're trying to build, a firm foundation for them to move forward. So a lot of psychoeducation. You're not doing a lot of deep trauma work at this point, but you are looking at trying to address their toxic shame, because the shame is kind of the fuel for the addictive disease. So you definitely want to start to understand their trauma and understand the shame and start to look at how they're reenacting and replaying a lot of their traumatic experiences in childhood. So you start to work towards that, and then the reprogramming can start to happen, but it's stages and phases. And therapy, it's not just about the technique, it's about the timing. So, yeah, it's a process, but it's a 2 to 5 year process, to be exact.
Really? Wow.
So for people who are like, yeah, I mean, I think I'm feeling better. It's like, all right, I'll see you back when you relapse. Because no, yeah, you're feeling better for today. But
Right.
this is a marathon. This is not a sprint.
Yeah, no, I mean that makes sense. I mean, I just didn't know it was going to be like that that long
Yeah.
of a process, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, and I don't
So
like to, and I would hate to sugarcoat it for anybody, because they
yeah,
need to know exactly what they're working towards, what it looks like, what they're up against, and that it's, a little bit of an uphill battle at first, but how incredibly worth it it all is. Yeah.
yeah, that feels like that's definitely one of those. Don't look at the finish line here. Just
Mhm.
appreciate the journey, because the journey is going to get you to said finish line.
Right. Right.
Um,
That's actually exactly why I developed my journal, is because I just wanted people to do the one day at a time piece, but to be able to see their daily progress and reflect back on it as well.
well, what's this journal? Like,
Um,
let's kind of hear about
so
that.
so it's right. Let me see if I can turn my computer. So it's the Plan to Recover mini journal, and it's really like a 90-day look at an early recovery process. And that doesn't have to be from like chemicals or even behaviors. It can be from anything. Maybe you're, diabetic and you're looking to make some changes to your body movement and your relationship to food. I mean, it could be anything. It could be relationships, it can be whatever. So you're identifying basically 3 things for 90 days to address and abstain from or automate. And you develop an AM routine and a PM routine to support your goals. And then you have every day a journaling practice that's prompted. So it's more of like a bullet journal, but it's an opportunity for people who are serious about, minimizing an unwanted behavior. It's a good way to, really support that and, you know, hold yourself accountable as best as possible.
Okay, and is that like a sellable asset? Is that
Yeah,
or
it's
is
on
that
Amazon. Is that what you
okay?
mean? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think like the best way to find it is really just look at my name. You can just put Andrea Epting into Amazon search, and it's going to pull up my podcast, and it's going to pull up the Plan to Recover journal. Or you can just put in, Plan to Recover mini journal, and it should pop up and you can order that. Mm-hmm.
Nice. And for everyone and for your knowledge as well, I'm really about like promoting people. So, um, you know, uh, when because we're kind of creeping up on that hour thing, and I want to keep you because I'm well aware that you have many things better to do than talk to my simple ass.
This has been a lot of fun.
Well, thank you, and you were too kind, and don't lie to me. Um,
I don't think I have it in me. This has actually been a fun hour.
I appreciate it. When in a few minutes, I'm going to have you tell everyone where every single thing is. You're going to send me all the stuff so I can put in the
Okay.
show notes and all that, because I personally feel like it's always important for folks, since you're taking your time out of your day. I don't care how big or small you are on the spectrum of life. You're still taking time out to talk to a complete stranger, and it's appreciated. It's cool of you to do it. So person to person, thank you.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me. Mm-hmm.
This sounds like a weird, creepy question, which is always a great way to start a question.
Isn't it?
But really, for someone in your field, what am I gonna absolutely say that's gonna knock your socks off here?
Not much.
So from the the sex therapy side, within the years that you have done it, have you learned anything about yourself that you didn't know in regards to your own like sexual health or
Well, sure.
Yeah.
There are tons of conferences I've been to and things that I have applied or found of value that I've been able to bring back to my own bedroom that I think both me and my partner quite enjoy. But I think for the most part, I learn as much from the people I serve as they learn from me.
Yeah.
So all of their
That's
healing
beautiful.
journeys, just watching their journeys and their healing and their strength and their courage, like I learned so much more from that than anything else.
And definitely kind of set that on a bit of a tee here for you because I kind of knew the answer to that, but I just wanted to kind of audibly hear it, and because there's no way that if you're doing work and you're not gaining something from it too, if it's not like a symbiotic kind of back and forth tennis match here, what are you doing, man? Like, what are you doing with your life? You just go find something different to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was helping people get sober for years before I, discontinued from all chemicals myself. Not that I necessarily had a problematic behaviors around it, but I was like, damn, these people are living their best life. Maybe I'm just going to not do that too. And I mean, just like watching that, I mean, that's just miraculous in and of itself. It's like, if I want a piece of what I'm seeing my clients get, like, yeah, that's gonna change you.
It's like having a 400-pound person tell you to watch what you're eating. It's like, what are you doing, man?
Yeah.
Shouldn't eat that. It's like, you have not seen any of your jiggly bits in 20 years. Don't tell me how to eat. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But no, that's awesome. And no, that's I don't know. I like that. I like the ability to, practice what you preach, I guess, kind of an idea.
Yeah. 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 Well, I mean, if you want to be in your integrity, you got to listen to those things and follow suit.
Yeah. So and kind of my takeaway from this, I mean, well, not my only takeaway. There's a boatload here. It's okay to be a little weird in the bedroom. Is kind of like, it doesn't make you weird. It doesn't make you creepy. I
don't think there's any such thing as creepy or weird in the bedroom as long as you've got, two people, perhaps, just authentically and honestly, truthfully enjoying themselves and watching someone they love enjoy themselves even. I mean, like, oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think some people, I don't know who all is going to listen to this, but if you heard nothing, take what she just said to the grave there. Because, just have a conversation, have clear expectations, clear boundaries. Don't stick things they shouldn't be without saying, is this cool? Like,
well, and there's nothing, I mean, for a lot of people, I can't say everybody, but for a lot of people, there's nothing sexier than saying, is this okay? Is this okay? Do you like this? Do you not like this? I want to know. I'm curious about you. I care about you. Like, that's pretty sexy for a lot of people.
Interesting. And just bare bones, you hear that. You don't think that is, but you really kind of dig into that a little bit. And it's like, no, that actually makes a lot of sense. Because it's like, I care about what you're going to like.
Exactly.
I
care about you, not just about me.
Right. I don't want to ruin this because you're getting that nice little spot there. I'm not trying to mess this up. So if I do that to that to that, is that, yeah? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Groovy. Let's kind of keep doing that now. Put that in the back of the head. That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, look, it has been an absolute blast, and I appreciate you coming on. This is definitely, and I'm not saying this because you're here. I'm not a hyperbolic person. I don't give a shit about people's feelings. I'm very straightforward. you have been one of the most interesting people I've actually had the honor to interview. So I appreciate
Oh,
you taking
thank
out the time,
you.
because you really do good work, and it is very interesting. And I would, you really did say, like, hey, look, do a consultation. It's free. Just make sure
What do you
you're
have to lose, really?
right. Make sure your temperature is all good and you're not like, so me being in the animals is not good. Yeah, probably not. Probably not. Probably want to talk to somebody. Get
Yeah,
that
well, what did the animal say about it?
uh, moo.
Yeah, so I'm not sure there's intimacy there.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. So it's a conversation to have for sure. Yeah.
My God. And the worst part is, I guarantee you've had that conversation or a very similar conversation to that. And that is way, way, way above my pay grade. I can't handle that. You are salute to you.
Thank you.
All right. It's plug time here. What do you got? Where can we find you? Give me all the stuff, and then we'll put it in the show notes as well. But plug away.
Okay, great. So my name is Andrea Epting, and I am with Lightning in a Bottle. We do digital courses, and we do coaching, and we have a community. And I recommend that people get started with the journal. It's like nothing to lose there. So, like, go to Amazon, put in Andrea Epting, put in the Plan to Recover mini journal. It's a 90-day journal to recovery and self discovery. I think it's a good way to get started. And if you like what it's about, maybe you try a course. We've got some already up there on intimacy betrayal, body betrayal. So some introductions to some trauma work. And we've got, 2, 3 amazing coaches who are licensed. They are psychotherapists. We call them coaches because they're doing it nationally, not just in their state of licensure. So I think, go to www.lightninginabottle.biz and learn more about our offerings. And if you want to just get to know more about me, you can email me through. You can also listen to the podcast. It's Direct Impact. So Direct Impact podcast with Andrea Epting. And I think it's just a good way to get to know a little bit more about what we do. But my podcast is like super short. We air about 3 times a week. We've got some mindful meditations. We've got some speaker interviews. We've got some solo episodes, but it's, 10 to 15 minutes, 20 minutes max, just like a nugget to take with you emotionally throughout the week. So if that's something you're interested in, go to the Direct Impact podcast. But I think that's the best way to get to know more about me and our team and what we do.
Look, not for nothing. Yes, sometimes those little less is more things. Absolutely. The fact that people listen to me rambling for an hour is beyond me. So yeah, fair enough. That's
Yeah.
that's a
Well,
good
I
way to
mean,
go
like
about it.
the concept was like, give somebody a gold nugget on the way to work. Give somebody a gold nugget on the way home before they walk through the door to have to, interact with their family. Like give somebody a little something that's going to be life giving.
And I'll leave you on this. I tell people a lot in my line of work. I do tech support, and I'm very, not to be pretentious, but I'm very good at what I do. And I'm able to connect with people, and we just have really kind of real awesome conversations that have zero to do with tech support. And a lot of the times they're like, "Hey, look, can I talk to someone on your behalf?" Yada yada yada. I tell them I don't care about that. What I want you to do is go out and make somebody smile, because
That's
literally
nice.
you going to do that could be the difference between that person shooting up at school or just going home and realizing, hey, life isn't that bad. So that
Yeah.
nugget that you're putting out there, I think that is, one of the best things you can do. This that real small little instant gratification that people are all about nowadays. That's beautiful.
Yeah. And hopefully it's a lasting effect, like the smile, right?
Yeah.
Knowing somebody saw them that day.
Yeah. And once again, I can't say this again, or I can technically, because yeah,
Because you can do
I
whatever
was
you
gonna
want.
say, yeah, I was
Your
gonna
show.
say it's my podcast, damn it. I was gonna say I can't say this enough, but words and stuff, I talk for a living. As you can see, I'm super good at it. You're doing great work, and it's really cool you've enlightened me. I mean, just on the sheer fact that you were able to humanize a pedophile to me is mind blowing. But you explaining what at the end they are still people. They are looked at as monsters. Absolutely, their actions are monstrous. But knowing that a lot of them are sincerely like, yeah, I'm kind of fucked up, and I don't want to do this. I don't want to be that.
Right.
Help me. That's amazing. Like you really, it's hard to like look at them differently, but they are still people.
Yeah.
So
Well, you can hate the behavior, and I hope that you do.
yeah,
But the person is a very different thing.
yeah, and that's just amazing that that you're able to compartmentalize those two things. And hats off to you. I mean, you're. I mean, I'm glad that's not just what you do. You get the other little fun kind of palate cleansers, but yeah, hats off to you on those days.
Thank you.
Well, Andrea, once again, I appreciate you coming on. This will literally be uploaded today, so I'll send the audio version and the video and audio version to you. Do with it what you will. I will post all of your information in there as well, so people can buy you all the things and they can pay your rent. Because
great.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I can't make money off of it, you might as well do it off my work. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
But any parting words for me or the folks listening?
No, just thank you so much for the opportunity to talk on a platform like this, because candidly and honestly, and just, because I think a lot of people really don't have the opportunity to sit where I sit and see what I see. And so I love the opportunity to share that.
And you were more than welcome to come back whenever you want. If you ever do, it's completely up to you.
Yes, I'd love to come back. Thank you.
I just appreciate you taking the time out. So I'll let you get off on your way. And that was a joke there on accident. I need a little rim shot thing there. But
done.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, I guess I'll see you some other time there.
All right. Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
All right.